Hi, everyone. I am Marion Grobb Finkelstein, workplace communication consultant. And today I would like to talk to you about why, when, and how leaders say, I'm sorry. There's always an occasion where you will benefit from knowing these tips. Before I do, I want to mention in the box here, in the YouTube box, if you want to receive more workplace communication tips, just click the subscribe and you will receive all my videos that I release once every couple weeks. So let's talk about why apologize. Why would you as a leader even want to apologize? Well, there are many reasons, especially nowadays, that leaders may want to apologize. So if you're wondering if you're in one of those situations, let me give you a few considerations that will help you to decide why apologize and if it's worth it or not. Apology, number one, apology is a necessary step on the road to recovery. When somebody is injured or feels offended, receiving an apology is the first huge leap toward feeling better and moving forward. That's for the recipient hearing an apology if you're the one giving it. If you are giving the apology, that's also a way for you to move forward. It's also a necessary step to the road to recovery for healing the relationship and jumping forward and getting on with business. Now, here's the interesting thing about hurts is that hurt, whether it's financial, physical, emotional, whatever type of hurt it is, when you're talking about hurt, it's very much a personal thing. Hurt is a personal perspective. So what you may think, oh, it's no big deal. If the person on the receiving end of your actions thinks it's a big deal to them, it is. So an apology might be necessary. Another consideration is that when you apologize, it positions you as being emotionally intelligent. You let the world know that you are very much aware of how your actions have impacted others around you. You might not have intended it at all, but apologizing makes you present yourself rather regretful for the impact of your actions, and it presents yourself as being humble and human. And remember, people relate to people, not perfection. So it makes you more relatable. Another consideration and why apologizing makes sense is that leaders assume responsibility. Part of being a leader is owning up to what you do right, what you do wrong. And even if it's unintentional, if you have done something to hurt a project or hurt people or offended somebody, there is that admission means that you are being responsible. I personally believe that it's worth the risk. I know that in this litigious world that we live in, a lot of people are hesitant to say those simple words, I'm sorry, because they're afraid of lawsuits and culpability and revealing guilt. Well, I think it's still worth the risk. Maybe not in all cases, but in most cases, saying I'm sorry is appropriate. If you're responsible, you can say I'm sorry. And another consideration as to why you may want to apologize, and here's probably a number one, the most important reason is that it maintains relationships. This is especially true in the workplace, also true, very true in your personal life. Hearing those words, I'm sorry, can maintain and keep relationships that otherwise would be so damaged that you might not be able to retrieve them. Now, when to apologize is the next question. When to apologize, ideally, is shortly after the offense takes place. The longer the time between when something happens that is offensive or is hurtful and when you apologize, the more it festers and that void gets filled with anger and rumors and bad thoughts and distancing and more friction. So the sooner that you can apologize to when the event happened, the better. Remember too that even if it's not intended, apologize if you hurt somebody, even if it's unintentional. That is so important. So imagine yourself in a lineup. say you're in a grocery store and you've got your little cart in front of you and somebody's behind you, and you step back just to look at something, and unknowingly you step on the person's foot behind you. What is your first instinct? You likely turn around and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toe. I so apologize. Are you okay?" The same principles are true in the workplace. Even if you didn't mean to hurt, if you did, you apologize. It still hurt and you still did the action. Even though no intent, if the hurt is still there, you apologize. Remember this story next time that you step on someone's toes, figuratively or literally. So the final point I want to talk about is how to apologize. Now you've decided that it's worthwhile to apologize, you know when to apologize, how to do it. The number one rule is to be authentic and sincere when you do apologize. When apologizing on a personal basis or on behalf of your whole team or your organization, it's important to speak from your heart, to assume that responsibility, and to really say that you are very concerned about the actions and where they led. Because if it's insincere and inauthentic, they will sniff that out in a heartbeat, and that will not play well. The words "I'm sorry," those two words, here's another tip. Those two words of actually saying "I'm sorry" is critical. What you do not want to say, what you avoid, is saying, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Well, I'm sorry that that's how you feel, or that's your perception. When you do that, you're discounting the person's feelings completely. You're telling them essentially that they're wrong, their perception is incorrect. You know, like I said earlier, hurt is a personal thing. When somebody is hurt, or a project is hurt, or somebody's upset or angry or ticked off, or you're dealing with a client that has been offended in some way or disappointed, that's their perception. Doesn't matter if you believe it or not, that is what they believe. So you say the words, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry this inconvenienced you. I'm sorry for all the headache that this has caused. I'm sorry that it turned out the way it did and that it inconvenienced you and impacted you negatively." You acknowledge their perspective. Consider when criminals express true remorse for their crimes, and then the judge hears them saying, "I'm sorry," and they're in tears and they're visibly upset, and it's proportionate to the crime that they've committed. The judge tends to be a little more lenient because they know that it's coming from the heart, or at least one would hope it is, that it's coming from the heart, and it seems to be very authentic. That idea of having remorse and being genuine goes a long way to building relationships and to other people finding forgiveness in their heart instead of judgment toward how you behaved. Another tip when you're giving an apology is to keep it separate from the explanation. Don't get caught up in the trap. Avoid the trap of wanting to explain your position. You want to be understood. You want to come from an understanding viewpoint. You're there to understand firstly. Then, of course, explain why you behaved the way you did, but do it as a completely separate conversation or at the end of that initial apology. It might be in the same conversation after the apology is given and it's given some time to sink in, or it might be a completely separate occasion where you circle back and you explain why you did behave in that manner. Everybody behaves the way they do for a reason, and I'm sure that you have reasons for whatever behavior you may have expressed or demonstrated. Maybe you were having a particularly stressful day or something completely unrelated to work that affected how you responded, and you're sorry for that. So explain that in a completely different conversation if you can than when you're apologizing. Keep it separate. Inappropriate behavior, regardless what the cause, is no excuse. It's an explanation, but never an excuse. So here's a question I want to ask you is, when was the last time that you apologized and said the words "I'm sorry" to someone, or when you received an apology? pop your comments in the comments boxes below and let me know what you think. What are some of the tips that I've shared with you that you are going to use? And if you're interested in receiving more tips on how to move forward, how to acknowledge the loss, how to get past bad events and flip them into positive outcomes, take a peek down in my article and or on my website, MarionSpeaks.com. I'll list it underneath. And you can check out my book, The Finkelstein Factor, What to Do When Things Go Wrong, ... because you know they will. Sigh. Until we meet again, I am Marion Grobb Finkelstein, hoping that you get to say, I am sorry for something coming up. Wait, you will. You'll have something. I know I sure will. And for right now, I am not sorry at all that you joined me. I am in fact very happy. Until we meet again, I am Marion Grobb Finkelstein, wishing for you better communication, better business, better life. Cheers, everyone.